This is Kitsos from Coasterland, and today we are ranking the 5 coasters that I've had the privilege of riding at Adventureland in Altoona, Iowa. You will not see Dragon Slayer on this list, as unfortunately my visit occurred prior to its existence but after the Dragon closure, so I have ridden neither ride. Also, this park was not among my favorites due to their honestly lackluster collection of rides, and the number 1 spot is pretty much probably obvious. One disclaimer is that I do not own the footage in this video, and all credit is given in the description or on your screen. So without further ado, let's dive in. At number 5, we have Phoenix, a Mauer spinning coaster. Now this typically would be a little higher because I like my Mauer spinners. I generally love a good Mauer spinner, in fact, but not so much in this case. The ride was stacking so bad it was stopping on the mid-course brake runs, which isn't really the ride's fault, it's the ride operator's fault. And to make matters worse, which was the ride's fault, the ride barely spun. It was an unpleasant surprise to me considering the other Mauer spinners I have done, most of which have the same layout, were so much better from the ride model, such as Laugh Track at Hershey Park, among others, which even without the theming would be a superior ride, Laugh Track that is. I also must ask the simple question, how hard is it to load 4 people into a train and dispatch it? Despite COVID, which may I add that the restrictions were nearly non-existent for Iowa at the time of my visit. Anyways, onwards and upwards, there's not really much more to talk about here. It's just a lackluster ride. At number 4, we have Tornado, an old William Cobb wooden roller coaster. Now, I cannot stress enough that I do understand that Bill Cobb is considered one of the great wooden coaster designers of his time, but I simply just don't see why. Much like Judge Roy's Scream, another Bill Cobb ride, this ride is effectively forceless in my opinion. Tornado suffers from this even more so than Judge Roy's Scream, if that's even possible. Tornado also tends to track reasonably rough, which doesn't help its case any, and unfortunately, it does cause the ride experience to further suffer. I will admit that toward the end of the ride, there is a brief moment of weak floater airtime, so I will give it that, but considering it's a ride of almost 3,000 feet long, one would expect more than just one moment of force. That being said, the ride still comes in pretty low in my rankings, despite that floater moment, because it's a very weak moment.
Not bad.
I have neck braces.
Number 3, we have the Underground, a CCI wooden dark ride coaster. Now this ride is barely a coaster given the fact that, well, only 1 or 2 sections are actually gravity powered. But I liked it for the spooky theming and atmosphere that really enhanced a family ride experience and turned it into a more adult-friendly attraction. The ride does seem dated, and I will admit that, but it easily accomplishes the task as a solid dark ride. Other than that, I will let y'all visit the park and find out for yourself, but I really highly recommend not skipping this attraction, as it is worth a good ride, even if it does have a line, which I waited about 45 minutes for it. At number 2 comes a perfect example of a great ride that is great despite being the equivalent of being in a fist fight. Yes, it is Outlaw. Mike Boodley, who I have had the pleasure of speaking to personally, designed a great ride that would later become his template for GCI when he started that company. The Twister Layout Wooden Coaster. Built by CCI and designed by legendary coaster designer Mike Boodley, this is an example that size matters not. To compare, this coaster is 23 feet shorter in height and 10 miles per hour slower in speed than Tornado, yet packs a significantly bigger punch. Standing at just 67 feet tall and going 48 miles per hour, this was the park's sleeper hit for me. The ride tracks on square wheels, unfortunately, but offers a lot of force and some airtime. I will admit, though, it was clear it was the first attempt at a twister for Mike, because, well, some of the forces are a little awkward and a little unnatural, and don't feel quite right, like they feel a little unbalanced. But other than that, it's still a great ride that I would take over some of the GCI coasters we know and love today, actually. And now coming in at number 1 should be no surprise to anybody, it's Monster, the Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster. Despite the addition of Dragon Slayer since my last visit and a new coaster coming in 2023 that's a family-friendly ride, there is no doubt in my mind which coaster is still the best at the park. I don't even have to ride those two to know. This ride is freaking awesome. The ride is the ultimate example of a hang time based ride, with several moments offering seriously insane hang time. The intensity of the ride relies on this feeling, from the first dive loop to the ultra rare, almost unheard of finish loop, to the final corkscrew taken after a trim that, yes, the trim actually makes the ride better. This ride is continuously a hang time machine. It does not hurt that the first drop offers great airtime as well, and there are a few more moments of airtime peppered throughout the ride. The ride operators were only visually checking ride restraints for the most part, which allowed me to have so much room I briefly got scared and pulled down a slight bit on the lift hill. And yes, I am not kidding, they let me keep it high enough for me to slide out under the restraint, which is why I got scared, despite being a coaster enthusiast. So, take that how you will. That was still one of my favorite rides on a coaster though, because I still had a ton of room. I was flying out of my seat, and it was overall amazing. The ride is also really smooth for a Gerstlauer coaster, so that helps a ton as well. To conclude, this is the park's star attraction, and I doubt that will change for quite some time, as the park just doesn't have the financial power behind it, even with Parques Reunidos purchasing them, aka Palace Entertainment, simply because I don't think it's going to be a high priority for them with thrill rides, given they've gotten several in the last couple of years. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was a little short, but it's okay. I mean, it's only 5 coasters we were ranking. If you enjoyed it, remember to click that like button and subscribe for more awesome content coming to your screen very soon. Also, comment your thoughts on Adventureland's coaster collection. Until next time, peace.